Alright guys, welcome back. So as you can see, some things have changed. I have gotten the hydraulics up and running, and then I've also made sure that it is accurate to a prototype Volvo, at least to my knowledge. So I've got it to where everything moves with the controls like this, as if you were sitting in the chair operating the two sticks. So at least to the best of my knowledge. That's kind of up to you and how you want to get it set up for control wise, but I tried to be as prototypical as I usually can. I have fun with that. So anyways, so far to recap most of what we've done, we've changed the hinges because one came bent. We have gotten the fluid all set up, got all the oil and everything lined up right. We've made sure that everything operates properly. When you're first filling it up, you'll fill the reservoir up pretty good. And then what you'll do is you'll start with your boom, and you'll go up and down, try and get it to completely fill the hydraulic lines. And then you go down and you'll put your hand up top and you'll hold it down as you try to go up to try and push any air out. And then you'll move to your arm, and then you'll move to your bucket. And you'll probably have to fill it twice, top it off twice, because you'll fill it the one time, you'll get through the boom, and on this one probably run out. And then you'll fill it up again to probably 2/3. That's what I did, past the part where it shoots out quite a bit. And then you'll run this, and it'll probably run out one more time by the time you get to the bucket right at the end, and then you'll top it off. And then what I did was I extended them out all the way. I'm sorry, I compressed them. I compressed all the rams to make sure we wouldn't overflow if we ever did that, and then topped it all the way off. Or at least, a good this much less than the top. And then that way, as long as you do that, everything works out right. I then folded everything and basically extended all of them, and everything ran great. It's a big enough tank. So it's a pretty simple process. You just got to make sure you get the air out of it, moving it back and forth, and working it for a little bit, especially once you're ready, compressing it in and then holding it down and pushing the rams out to then pushing the rams out, as far as so that way you can get the water or the air out. And yeah, it'll definitely overpower you unless you're like standing on it. So if you can hold it and it pushes up and you have no issues with air, you're doing good. So once that was done, I checked the pressure. I put it at I think it's like 2 kPa or whatever the gauge that comes with it was saying. It definitely is doing fine. If it needs more pressure, I can do that while I'm out, messing with it. This, if I remember correctly, this was actually a pressure adjustment. There's also one that sticks out right in here, the same type that the Dozer has. But personally, I prefer to use that if you can. It's just, as far as I understand, a finer adjustment. This one's a little bit more stiff, and I'd rather not screw with it. I've opened it too far and popped the control knob off of it with the Dozer, and lost fluid, and that was so much fun. So yeah, I'd recommend using this if you can, and it will adjust up and down. But the way you check that is, what I do is I max the ram out and I put pressure on it and I adjust it real quick. I don't do anything for too long, because obviously you don't want to damage the seals, you don't want to hurt it, none of that. So anyways, the next thing I did was take the tracks. We take them off. A lot of times your pins will back out in shipping and when they test and all that, because they either don't put them in all the way, or when playing with it, testing it, they back out. My understanding that this mainly happens on these, because as far as I understand, in the real thing, tracks stretch and all that, and this just like a real thing, it does that. It damages tracks over time, and they break and all that, which you'll see on the Dozer, which, if you followed my series, I have put steel tracks on the Dozer to be more reliable. But a lot of that was the pins would back out, and then they would stretch it out and break it and all of that, not just through running. Well, This one has the same style of pins as the original. Okay, they're a little pin guy, just like this, and they got on the one side. Let's see if we can back it up enough. You know, you can see the little spikes on the top, and then the rest of it is smooth. And so it slides in there, and you tap it in to get it locked in. Well, they like to back out because these are aluminum, and once you stretch or break an aluminum, as far as I understand it, that's it. And it's a weak enough metal that it will stay that way, and eventually these will just back out, and you'll start having problems. And the one that we ran, that my buddy has, we had some issues with it. The pin backed out and broke a link, and it was not cool. So what we did to fix that was we took, as I keep calling it blue goo, but essentially it's Loctite. It is right here, or Thread Locker. I use Tamiya because I have a bunch of the trucks, and they always come with it, so why not? Don't care what brand it is as long as it works, and this stuff does work. So that's what we've been doing with our tracks like this. I'm still considering doing the steel tracks, but I don't know yet because these don't get used nearly as much as like a Dozer will, so they should be fairly reliable, but I would like to get them eventually. The other thing you want to do is, here's your adjuster. This is your adjustment. The height from this spot right here, the bottom, to the bottom of the head. That's usually where I measure it. Now, if I was going to do them singly, that's how I would do it. Now, since I had both tracks off, I took both of these and I just flipped the other one over and I stuck them next to each other and I backed one bolt out to match the other. And I went for the tighter. Here, give me 1 second. Okay, we're back. So this is your adjuster. And so if you have both of them out, you can just flip one over and line it together to where you have one bolt match the other. And that way they're even, which is what you want. Now, I would normally do thread locker on something like this. Don't really need to because it's going to be under tension, so it's really not going to back out. But these also, since it's brand new, are going to wear in a little bit. So we just want to make sure that they're even, let them wear in for a few runs, and then maybe take them out, and then thread lock them at the right height and make them nice and tensioned. Because the tracks are going to wear in, the powder coat's going to wear off, the pins are going to wear in a little bit, so everything's going to wear in a little, and you want to make sure that you give it the opportunity to do that, because even no matter how nice a tension I put on this, it's going to wear in and it's going to get a little bit more loose. That's just how they operate, and that's just the way it works. So, at least from what I've seen, that's how the Dozer worked out. My understanding is that's how this is going to work out and how tracks work in general on something like this. So, inside here is a little spring that this basically lines up to, and that's what gives you your tension. So as you can see, I can move it in a little bit. Now it's quite tight, so I can't do it completely, but I have a way around that. We're going to tighten the tracks on with this, crush it down, and then I can line the tracks out nicely. The Dozer is a lot more difficult because it's a triangle, so trying to do that with the Dozer is very hard to do. With this, whereas this one is quite a bit simpler because it's just straight and flat. So anyways, that's what we have left to do on that. So I need to get the tracks put on, and then I can test it. I can run the hydraulics, and that's pretty much all I have left to do on this model to get it ready to run. I still want to do sound and lights, but for right now, I don't have those things here, and so I'm not super concerned about worrying about it. You can get the interior that comes with the screen mount, that you can put the little screen in them and all that stuff. I'm not worried about that right now. Would be cool to have at some point on the really high-end ones, like I think it's the Cabalite ones. You can get them for like up to 10 grand or 9 grand. And they'll come with all that cool stuff, but you can buy the parts for way cheaper than that and install them yourself, which I'm definitely a bigger fan of than going that route, spending that kind of money, because you just don't need to. But some guys, that's what they like to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. The biggest thing for me is, if you want to get into the hobby, you do it the right way, and I can't say always, but it will be fun. It will be enjoyable. I think this is a great way to go. I have a friend of mine that bought a plastic model with a metal bucket and rubber tracks, going, well, it's fairly heavy. This is going to work just as well, and it doesn't. The reason these work so well is because they're all metal, and they've got hydraulics that they have quite a bit of power. You can always do what you want to do. The electric ones are always good, especially for like a 3 or 4-year-old wants to get into it. You give them one that they can use and play with that is not as big of a deal, generally not as powerful. But for these, definitely these are not for little kids, even though you can probably teach them pretty well how to do it. But if you really want to get into the whole hydraulic hobby, this is the way to go. Some guys will take the electric ones and convert them over. Me personally, I think I talked about it earlier in the video too. I have a loader, I considered it, and it's just so many things about it that make it not worth doing for me. Lack of suspension, the bucket only goes so far down, so it doesn't actually fully dump, and there's plenty of other reasons. Plus, it doesn't look very accurate and very prototypical. It looks pretty cheap, even though it was $300. This was $3,300. So it's a big difference. And you can get some really nice excavators in all metal and electric that Huina makes, which is who made the loader that I have. And they're actually fairly decent, but again, they're not going to be anything like this. So it just depends on what you want to do for your hobbies and for the hobby itself. Some guys really like them. You'll find videos on them. Anyone that wants to get into the hobby, I say go for it. But if you're trying to go hydraulic, these are probably one of the best type of model you can get, because you can get the ones that are kits that are like 5, 6, 7 grand, and they're really cool, but they take a lot of work, and you got to know what you're doing, and you got to understand the hydraulics, and you got to understand how like all of that works, or at least you should, or have a basic understanding of how to put them together before you tackle something like that. You could do what I did, which is literally just buy them, and like the dozer, I just tore it completely apart. You'll see it in my series where I just have the whole thing torn to pieces. And I figured it out that way because that's how I operate. Some guys are really good with that. I am one of them. A lot of people don't want to do that. They want to buy it and just enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that too. But I definitely would urge you to get a set of tools if you're going to do this. Like a punch kit is great for doing like the pins and stuff. Honestly, I use the wrong tool as a hammer because it's a nice heavy-duty set of pliers. The Cobalt ones work great, but I have them all over my house. I love the Cobalt tools because they're cheap and they're lifetime warranty. They're fantastic. But like that, the clamp set, the other toolkit that I showed you that has the screwdriver set and the Allen key and all of that, you're going to want to get oil for these. I think it's AW32 hydraulic oil is what I use. I got it from O'Reilly's. I just got a big jug because I've got 3 of these. And I plan on getting 2 more. So I might as well just have a bunch of oil. But yeah, they're really neat. And once you get them up and running, they're fantastic. But you want to make sure that you go through them when you get them. You want to make sure that you check everything, the track issue. And I found the hard way with my buddies and with my dozer, just how bad it can go pretty quickly if you don't check and you don't pay attention. This one came with a little oil in it already, so I had to wipe it. That it spilled. The door was bent a little, so having a little knowledge is never a bad thing. But overall, it's a really fantastic model. I think they're really cool. I'm gonna start putting this together so you guys can see that, and then run the hydraulics and all that a little bit before I cut the video. But either way, just figured I'd give you a little bit of a heads up here. So on the tracks, the bigger hole goes first. This is where the pins install this side, so we want that on the outside to try and make our life a little bit easier. We definitely don't want to put it on the inside. It's a much more difficult situation if you do that. So I would recommend, situations that you keep it the way it was installed. Don't try and change that. You can, that's up to you. It's your model, but I'm just saying for ease of use, I wouldn't do that. You want to get it around the star gear, right? Or the crank, I guess it would be called. I don't actually know the correct equipment terminology, to be honest with you. I've just started doing this stuff, and I haven't really dug into that too far. As you notice, as you see, it's resting pretty well. All right, I'm going to take this guy, and I'm going to put it on the outside. We're going to tighten this guy down, so it's nice and tight. And now we should be able to line this up really well. Oh yeah. So we'll take this. What's nice is now, because we have it set like that, take this here. Make sure I have my little pliers set ready to go. Red pliers. So I like to use bent pliers. It makes life a lot easier. And hopefully you guys enjoy these videos. They are kind of long. I'm fairly long-winded, I guess, but in reality, I want to make sure you guys have all the knowledge before you get into something like this, because it is quite an ordeal. But it's so worth it. It's just not even funny. So what I did was let's see if we can get a good picture of it. As you see, the thread locker on there on the splines, the bottom of the splines. And then I have it held in this, just like this. And we'll slide it in. Right? Now that it's in there, I can finagle this to where it's lined up properly. And now I get it to where it's going to slide into the first set, which is really the biggest thing. Because once it slides in, everything gets easy after that. Once it slides in there, you're golden. It's getting it in at first. That's a royal pain. As you can see, it doesn't want to go in because it wants to fight me. Because you got to get it lined up right, and it just wants to fight. But there it is. Now it's in, and it looks like I wiped off all my stuff there. So just wipe the track face, get it off of there, and we'll just goop it one more time just to be safe. Make sure we get enough in there, and then we'll hammer it on there. So you don't need a lot, just a tiny bit. And I am lined AF, so I'm going to put a little extra on there because I just can't tell, because I can't see very well in the lighting that I have. And so now it's lined up like this. This is on there pretty tight, ain't going anywhere. You take this, and you want to be careful, because you don't want to, if you don't get it lined up right, you can actually bend the track. And so you want to make sure that you get it lined up right first. Now that it's in, a little bit of tapping. And it's definitely not all the way in, but we've got it where we want it. So what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to release it, and now it's stuck where it's at. It's not going to go anywhere, and I can hammer on it, and it's not going to hurt it. Would be better if it was in front of a gear, which we may do that. We may line it up with a gear, get the battery hooked up. Now this is not recommended because the pin, if you notice, is actually out, which you don't want. So what I'm going to be doing is I put it on a solid spot so that when I hit it, it should drive right in. Now I could have done it near the back, which would also be effective, but I tend to like to use the front area just because it's easier for me to stand and do it. Just where I put this. But I'm not banging the heck out of it, I'm just going to beat it nicely. There are other ways to do this. This is how I've always done it. And I don't know how other people are doing it, other than the way I'm doing it. So that's what I'm going to do. You want to make sure you line it up straight. Make sure it's flush, or fairly flush. Like dang near. It might be just in, it might be just out. If you can, you at least want it to be as flush as possible. Give it a good hit. Looks to me like it's flush, and now the tracks are in. So we'll make sure she's lined up right so we're not grabbing stuff as it moves. There's that. Oh man, it's heavy for what it is. So now that we're lined up, generally with a lipo, you want to try and use these little guys if you can. I like the Venom ones a lot. I don't think they're made anymore. I think Venom went under, but I have a bunch of them. But if not these, something similar. And what that does is it tells you if there's something wrong with it, or no, I'm sorry, not something wrong. Well, yeah, some of it is something wrong, but also it tells you when it runs out of power or it runs too low. So that way you don't burn up the batteries. So now, let's get her working. Let's make sure the tracks and all that run. Alright, so now that we have it set up, so it's because we didn't have the pump on, it did drop. Let's see how smoothly it works. Now, I am not very skilled with this, I'm going to tell you. I haven't a clue how to do this properly, so it's going to be quite a bit of a learning experience for me. But apparently the controls are now set up properly. It operates like the real one. I'm really excited. So I'm really excited for it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I still have the decals left to do, and I was still considering whether I'm going to take it apart, because I still want to do the sound and everything, hopefully before summer. But I was considering taking it apart, taking all the yellow painted surfaces and the two arms, and taking them to a powder coat shop and getting powder coated white. Don't know that we're going to do that yet. I haven't made that decision, but I feel like that would be a lot of fun, and I feel like I would really like it. So we'll see. We may go that route, but I don't know, because I don't mind the yellow, but I like the white equipment a lot. I think it looks really sharp. I think it looks really nice, and it'd be something a little different. I think it would be pretty cool. But we'll see what happens. Either way, there's the 360L. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Please like and subscribe. I know it was a long video, but at the same time, I want to make sure that you get all the info that you can possibly get from somebody who's actually bought and set up one of these, because most of this I had to learn helping my buddy figure his out, and through some videos that I watched. A lot of them don't show like taking the tracks apart and stuff like that. But if you notice, by the way, with that tensioner set up the way it is, they still have flex. You don't want them to be just super tight. You just want them to be tight enough that they stay nice and stiff. But a lot of the stuff I wish that I would have watched more stuff on it, so I would have known ahead of time. But at the same time, it's also kind of fun tearing the stuff apart, playing with it, and learning. There are a few really good videos out there and different mechanical stuff. There's a few guys still doing a lot of that. You've got Yellow Iron Cowboy. You've got Dig It RC likes to show a lot of his stuff, which is really cool. You've got all kinds of good stuff going on. There were a couple other ones. I don't know if they're still around or if they kind of like me went on hiatus. Once the divorce started, I kind of stopped messing around with this stuff and all of that. So now I'm back to messing around with it. But definitely this summer we're gonna have a lot of operation videos. We're gonna have a lot of fun because there's a few of us. There's one guy here in Anchorage that has equipment wise I think he has like another excavator more than I do, and he has the Bobcat and a few other things I don't have. But we mostly, like, both of us have a dozer, both of us have loaders, both of us now have the 360L. I think he has a 4200. I think he has the Bobcat. I want to say there was something else I'm forgetting. He's tons of Tamiya trucks. Very, very knowledgeable. Let me tell you, this guy knows a lot. He's the only other one in Anchorage I'm aware of. So we're going to try and kind of get together and start having more fun with these things. Because I would really like to start a club up here. But we'll see. Like I said, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please ask. And I will get this all going for you. Trying to get this up so you guys can see it and see if we can't get more people into the hobby and really enjoying it. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.